Joe Manchin is very disturbed about the Senate workplace. He thinks that it's a hostile work environment. He has really a hard time coming into work every day. So one would think, that would lead you to believe that really just terrible things were happening to him, terrible things that happen to workers in work environments on a daily basis who are not necessarily given the money or the prestige or the power that Joe Manchin has. Here he is complaining about that dynamic to CNN.
You want to know what's wrong with the place? I go to work in a hostile working environment every day.
Oh.
If you're a Democrat and a Republican's up for election, you're supposed to be against that person. If Donald Duck's running against that person, you're supposed to give money from your PAC to help the other person beat the person that you've been working with. And even sometimes they'll say, can you come campaign against so-and-so? And then we come back on Monday, and here's the person that we've given money against, and here's the person that we're supposed to give, basically go out and work against, saying, hey, could you sign on this amendment for me? Could you work with me on this amendment?
What is he? He's complaining that he has to work to make sure his party wins elections, and then wondering how he's supposed to do that while also having to work bipartisanly with Republicans. And that's the most bizarre thing I've ever heard in my life. Well, you wouldn't have to work with the Republicans and compromise everything you want away if you did the work to make Democrats win. But I mean, that's what Joe Manchin we're talking about here.
Resign, Joe. Resign.
First of all, I would vote for Donald Duck over any of our current elected politicians. Just, I remember when just yesterday, Sliwa brought Gizmo the cat to the polls, and I was like, shit, why can't I vote for this cat over Eric Adams or Sliwa? So, I think that he really should be, I would consider myself lucky if I was able to campaign on behalf of Donald Duck over Joe Manchin himself. Second, I thought he was going to complain about people harassing him for his terrible ideas and bad opinions, but instead he just complained about having to do his real job, like with the job of a politician in a political party. And so I'm like, I can kind of relate to not wanting to do your job, but like, seriously, those are like the basic functions of it. Like Emma said, you got to resign if you don't want to actually, show up.
Yeah, or leave the party, be an independent. Like, then you don't have to do any of that stuff.
If he were in the Democratic Party, he wouldn't have the power to get the kind of attention
exactly.
that he likes. Still, if he were just to become a Republican, he might lose his seat to a Democrat who comes in from the left in West Virginia, or he'll lose all the attention and fawning people give him, even if he is still able to hold up legislation.
That's the point, though.
If he ran as a Republican, there'd be no guarantee he'd make it out of the Republican primary.
Yes, he couldn't win a Republican primary. Yeah. Neither could Sinema. They want to be the kingmakers in the Democratic Party and not face any consequences for it. Sinema wants to be able to go to the bathroom in peace and teach her ASU course on fundraising without anybody getting upset at her publicly for the consequences of her decisions. And Manchin wants to be able to do whatever he wants and not get any criticism for it. And that equates to a hostile work environment. I would love to place Manchin and Sinema, and Manchin in particular, because he made this comment, in an actual workplace in the United States and see how they fare. Do an undercover boss type situation, except just nobody come for them and make them live those lives for a good period of time, and see how it's going to go in a real workplace where they're making minimum wage and have threadbare protections.
Yeah, I'd like to see Joe Manchin
on an assembly line.
Yeah, like sort of left in the bottom of a strip mine and no transportation out of it.
It's interesting, yeah. Undercover boss for Joe Manchin with the coal mines that he invests in. See how much he likes that work then. And how much he chooses to place the romanticized version of a coworker over the future of climate. I mean, he had a quote. He had a quote about how we need to be doing more drilling in the United States to Fox News. I mean, it's just like retrograde garbage. But anyway. We have a protest. We have a protest?
Yeah. Oh,
yes. Here I have it here. Joe Manchin being protested by climate activists. This is part of the hostile work environment, probably.
We want to live! 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 We My friends, we want to live. Everyone's like, we want to live. 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 We want to live.
And this came up with the Kirsten Sinema wedding thing too, where protesters were pointing out the races, costumes worn to that wedding, and I think maybe the bride even saying like, "I just want to enjoy my wedding." It's like, well, don't invite this freak who shouldn't be allowed to enjoy their life at this point. This is what they should meet every single time they're in public. It's the exact same thing as like Trumpers trying to eat at Red Rooster or whatever the hell it is, right? Like
not Trump or like just regular MAGA folk, but people in the administration, people in power.
Exactly. Like people that are in power deserve to be inconvenienced at the very least.
It's just a false divide. I mean, it's a false divide between the public and private lives that they're supposed to be allowed to have that other people, really aren't. Going back to what Emma was saying about like normal people's jobs are hostile just because they have to work in order to survive, and much less the interpersonal drama or the overworking that goes on those jobs. And so for them to complain about like just the basic functions of their job, as well as like the hate they get from the people outside of their job whose lives they make miserable by doing it, or makes worse or even deadly by doing it, is supposed to just be part of this larger web of like, well, you can't be mad at Tucker Carlson because he goes on the news and says racist things, because at home, he's just a family man who his kids love and his wife loves. And so we have to be able to have this private public divide. Otherwise, no one will want to say racist things on television, or no one will want to be in politics. And it's like, well, I don't think that's true. I think it's mostly just another thing that's foisted on us so that we don't feel as though there's any real kind of accountability we're able to, enforce onto our public, intellectual, political media class. It's just, everyone is just expected to take it. You take it at your job every day from your boss. And then once, Sinema tells you can't have health insurance or some shit, you got to take it from her too. But God forbid she get any kind of negative feedback from you or from, other politicians.